No matter what level of mountain bike rider you are, you're going to need to do some sort of basic maintenance on your bike, even if it's just cleaning it and running an alley key over it to make sure it's safe. Now, of course, you're going to need some tools to do that, and we recommend you start with a very basic setup, and of course, as your maintenance sort of skills develop over the years, you're going to start adding tools to that. So with that in mind, here are our 5 main suggestions for what you should have. So first up, let's talk pumps. And I say pumps because you're going to need some options here. So to start with, you're going to need a single pump for pumping up your tyres, for repairing punctures, all that sort of stuff. Now, if you're on a budget and you can only afford a single pump, what I would recommend is a portable sort of pump that is usable, you can take with you, and you can also use it at home. Now, there are a lot of mini pumps available on the market, but some of them are designed purely for getting you back on a trail again when you're riding, and they're not the best for pumping up a tyre with. But you can get a lot of halfway houses like this option here, which is kind of like using a mini floor pump. Works really well, it's got a pressure gauge on it, but it's quite happy to use this at home. So it actually represents really good value for money, and later on you might want to consider upgrading and getting yourself a substantial floor pump, which you will have for a long time. So when you're looking for your first pump, the portable option, there's 3 things you need to kind of factor in. Now firstly is the type of valve it can be used with. Now most pumps do have some sort of system for changing, so you can use them with Presta, which is high pressure, or Schrader, which is also known as a car valve. Now there are more intelligent options out there that you can literally just put straight onto any valve, click in place, and they will work. So just factor that in mind when you're looking for them. The second thing you need to bear in mind is the ergonomics and the sort of functionality, the size of that pump. The smaller the pump is, the harder work it is to be able to pump your tyres up. The bigger it is, the less portable it is. So make sure you factor those things in. Now, I said to you a minute ago that I really like this, and the reason for that is the fact it's got a handle that comes out the side. When you're using a traditional style pump in this sort of fashion, it's actually not the most natural position to use as a pump. So this is effectively a mini floor standing pump, so you use it in the same fashion. You've got a foot stand, literally put your foot on that, the handle comes out just like on a track pump, and you use your hand. A bit more of a natural position to be in when you're pumping up the tyre. Make sure you factor that in. And of course, the final thing is your budget. Now, with any tools, I would say buy the best tools you can, because only a rich man buys cheap tools, because you're going to have to keep replacing those things in time. If you buy something good that's got good warranty, I'm not talking about top of the range here, just something that's good quality with some aluminium and some plastic construction. See how flimsy it is, see how tough it is. Just make sure you look at those things before you spend your money. So your next option with pumps is a floor standing pump, often referred to as a track pump. Now, these sort of pumps are substantially bigger than your regular mini pumps or compact pumps. They're very easy to use, very quick to inflate your tyres, and if you get a good quality one, it will last you a long time. Now, my first track pump, I actually had it for over 20 years, and I only got rid of it a couple of years ago. It was an ancient SKS one. It had a cast iron base, and the only thing I ever changed in it was a chuck and the hose, and that thing was good as gold. Finally given up the ghost, and I've got one of these now. Now, when you're buying a track pump, I would actually recommend you save up longer and get yourself a better pump than just get the cheapest one you can, because it's quite a heavy duty item. They're subject to a lot of leverage. The way you use them, you're going to pull it apart and break it if you have a cheap plastic offering. Now, you can buy some really good value basic track pumps, but again, I really would save up the money a bit longer. Something to factor in with track pumps, as other ones, is the hose length on them. Make sure it suits you. Some are really short and a bit of a pain. How well they stand up on the floor. I can't stand the flimsy ones that just topple over all the time. Make sure it's got a nice sturdy base on there. All the pumps you get these days will have a valve option that will do both tyres, the car valve and the high pressure valve. And this particular one has basically a mini compressor built into it. Now that is for seating tubeless tyres, and this has become my new replacement, and I'm hoping that this will be going perhaps another 10 years. It's a good solid piece of kit, and as I emphasise, it really is worth saving up a bit longer and making do with your mini pump or your compact pump until you can afford to get a high-end pump that's going to last you a long time. Now, the final type of pump you're going to need to add to your collection will be some kind of shock pump. That is if you have a suspension fork or shock on your bike that is air sprung. Now, most shocks and forks these days do come with a shock in a packet, but perhaps you bought your bike second-hand or you just simply don't have one. If you add one of these sort of shock pumps to your list of things, it means you can be self-sufficient in setting your bike up, and whenever you want to change those settings, you're free to do that. Pretty simple affairs, high pressure, very small. So next up is Allen keys, also known as hex wrenches, and all the other small tools that you need on your bike, like the Torx T25 and even just a crosshead screwdriver. So depending on how much budget you have, you're going to need a set of Allen keys, and you're going to need to consider whether you want to just use them at home or you want to take them out on a trail with you. So let's just say you're on a budget. Your best option, in which case, is to get yourself a decent compact multi-tool that's got most of those Allen keys on there. This particular one has everything from a 2mm up to an 8mm Allen key. It's also got a Torx T25 and it's got a chain tool on there. That's a really good bit of kit to have. But of course the big Allen key on here, the 8mm, is not that useful. It's more a case of emergencies for tightening up the 8mm pedal bolt. So I would definitely recommend getting yourself a quality 8mm Allen key on the side. Now the other option is to get some quality Allen keys or a set for home. Now I would always recommend getting those with a ball end. The reason for that is there are some tucked away bolts on a bike, and at some point you're going to find them a bit hard to get into, and you can slip and you can damage the head of the bolt very easily. With these you've got two options. You've got the regular head and you've got the ball ended head, which allows you to get into those hard to find angles. Now Allen keys, you can get some very cheap budget ones and they'll work very well, but just bear in mind that the softer keys you get, which are often the cheaper material ones, over time the edges do sort of round on them a little bit and they won't be sharp and fit your bolt heads, so they can damage your bolt heads. I'm not suggesting the first Allen key you buy is a really high-end one. Just pay attention to the condition of them when you're using them and replace as necessary. If you'd rather have something a bit more compact for home, you can get these sort of multi-tool sets. This one's a Torx set, but they do these for Allen keys as well. Very useful to have them all in one place, especially if you're limited, say if you live in a flat or a small home and you need to sort of make sure you've got a very compact setup. You can also take these out on the trail quite happily. They're nice and small, but you're still better off with a smaller specialist tool that's got everything on there. So the final thing, just to remind you, when you're buying your Allen key set, you can also buy these individually and just get the ones that you need for your bike. Now the 4, 5 and 6mm are the most common. The 8mm, that's predominantly the one that you use these days for crank bolts and also holding the pedals, so you will need that. But also have a look at your particular bike and look at things like the brake lever clamp bolts and stuff, and also like if you've got lock-on grips. Sometimes it's a 2.5mm, sometimes it's a 3. Just have a look at what you have on your bike and just make sure you've got those. And the other thing, I'm putting this in with Allen keys, is a Torx T25. Now this is the sort of starry looking bolt head, and you use those predominantly on your disc rotor bolts. So sometimes you can get 4mm Allen bolts that fit in there, but the common industry standard tends to be the T25. They're also increasing in popularity in other areas of the bike, so get one of those and you'll be able to sort that out. Part of the nature of mountain biking is getting dirty. Your bike is going to get covered in mud, muck, dust and grime. So you need to be able to look after that, clean it, lubricate it and make sure everything is functioning well. So to start off with, you don't need a fancy hose or anything, just a simple bucket and some cleaning brushes. As far as cleaning brushes go, you can get specific bike ones, or you can do what I do and just use a generic car cleaning brush, just get it from the sort of automotive stores. Okay, for cleaning the bike itself, on top of water, you're going to want some sort of cleaning solution. Now, some people I've seen using washing up liquid, and whilst it does get everything clean, it can be a bit corrosive because it's got salt on it, so I probably wouldn't recommend using that anywhere near a bike. Car shampoo is very cheap. Again, I probably wouldn't recommend using it anywhere near a bike because it has got waxes and stuff in it that can be damaging to your brakes. So if you do insist on using that, just keep it very clear of your disc brakes, otherwise you're going to regret that. You can't be a proper cleaner though. They're formulated specifically so they won't damage your brakes. They'll cut through all that grease and grime on your chain and they'll give you a good finish on the bike. Now they can be expensive, but it's up to you to be sparing in how you use it. Now the best recommendation would be clean your bike while it's still wet and muddy. So that way you can get most of it off straight away, and then you only need to do a little bit of elbow grease with a bit of spray and a brush. Final rinse down and give your bike a lubricate and it'll be good. If you're riding at a trail centre, more than likely they're going to have a hose pipe there or a jet wash. So as soon as you finish riding, before you go and get all dressed up and go for a cup of tea, get your bike cleaned while it's still wet, because that stuff will come straight off. All you'll need to do then is get a rag with some water displacer on it, wipe it around the frame to get rid of any smears and stuff, put some through your drivetrain to make sure there's no water just held in there, and then you're good to go. Now for home you'll need some sort of water displacer, whether it's WD-40 or another branded one. Really good stuff to have just to make sure you drive all that water out. It's got a lubricant in there, so it's going to help resist corrosion. You'll need some sort of generic lubricant. You don't need to go over the top. If you're on a budget, you can have a generic spray lube. As you get more detailed with your bike maintenance, you might start looking at things like a specific chain lube. That means wet lubes, dry lubes, wax lubes, stuff like that. But an all-round lube is all you actually need. Finally, the last thing you need is a generic workshop grease. You'll need this for keeping water away from bearings and other parts of the bike, for assembling things like putting new pedals onto the bike, for your seat post junction into the frame. Anywhere like that, you need some grease. Buy it once, it's very sparing the way you use it, so it's well worth having. So you're going to need some sort of chain tool for rejoining a chain and splitting a chain. Now I do recommend when you buy a multi-tool for putting in your riding pack, or if this is your main toolkit, make sure that it has a decent chain tool on it. When I say a decent chain tool, what I mean by that is one with 2 sets of jaws. You can use that jaw for splitting and joining a chain, and a secondary set of jaws can help you remove a stiff link if you're unlucky enough to have one. Now you might not think that you're going to need to have a chain splitter at all these days, because you can get those master links for rejoining chains, but at some point you will snap a chain, and when you do that you're very likely to damage some links, in which case you're going to need to split that bit of the chain, remove it, then rejoin your chain. So if you're going to have a home setup as well, I would definitely recommend having a dedicated chain tool. They're a lot bigger, a lot easier to use, there's more leverage on the handles, and it's one of those tools that you buy once and you'll pretty much have this for life. This particular one, you've got a replaceable pin driver on it, and actually comes with a couple in the box as well, so it should see you through. And the final 2 things you probably want to have in your collection are some kind of master links. So these are the links that rejoin a chain. They're great to keep in your riding bag, but equally as good to keep at home to get you back on the trail again. Now just make sure when you buy these, they suit the bike you have, whether that's 9-speed, 10-speed, 11-speed or 12-speed. Nice and cheap, get 2 or 3 of these and just keep them. The final thing with a chain is checking if it's worn or not and if it's stretched. Now you can get a variety of different chain checkers on the market. This one's a little bit more advanced, but there's a more basic one that just slots straight into the chain and it can tell you how far along in chain stretch it is. If you replace your chain before it's worn out, this is going to be more beneficial to you and save you money in the long run, because your cassette and the sprockets on the chainring, they're going to last a lot longer. So just monitor your chain wear and it will save you money in the long run. A basic chain tool doesn't cost a lot of money, and once you've got one, it will be compatible with any chain you're likely to have. And finally, is one thing that you probably think you don't need, is a set of cable cutters. So you'll need this if you're changing your brake inner cables or your gear inner cables, or if you're lucky enough to have a dropper post on your bike, more than likely that will have an inner cable as well operating that. Now you can cut these cables with a set of conventional cutters, but more than likely you will end up fraying that cable, in which case it's going to split and you'll end up having to replace it sooner than later. Buy a set of good cable cutters. You only need to buy these once if you look after them. Don't be tempted to cut anything else of them. Some people I've seen cut spokes and all sorts, and that sort of just damages the end of these. Keep them nice and sharp and you will keep these forever. Cool, so that's the sort of 5 groups of tools that everyone should have in their toolkit. As I emphasised at the beginning, as your maintenance becomes a bit more comfortable and you venture onto more things, you're going to need to expand your toolkit. And we're going to look at the things you need to do that in the next video. If you want to see a couple more really cool, helpful videos, click down here for 3 ways to fix a chain. So it deals with out on the trail, how you rejoin your chain when it's damaged and snapped. If you want to see the latest tech show where I'll answer all your tech related questions, click down here. As always, click on the globe to subscribe. We've got brand new content coming for you every single week now on GMBN Tech channel. And if you like the video, give us a thumbs up.